Hi friends, today we're going to talk about evaluating a function. This is an important concept that comes up over and over in college algebra, so it's a really good foundation to have as you proceed into college algebra. When we talk about a function, we talk about something that is in the form f of x. Now please note, we're not multiplying f and x. We're saying that f of x is a rule, and it tells us how to find y if we know x. Now there is an important point here I want to tell you. F of x is like the full name of y. They mean the same thing when y is a function. So when you see f of x, this is like first, middle, and last name for y. So another way of saying f of x is y. So this tells us a rule, how to find y if we know x. So I have up here a function, f of x equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. And you can think of that as y equals 2x squared plus 3x plus 1, if that helps. Now, if I write up here f of 1, this means use that rule and put 1 in everywhere you have an x in that rule. So we could rewrite this as 2 times 1 squared plus 3 times 1 plus 1. Now this can be evaluated, and when we can evaluate a function, we want to. We can't always. So 2 times 1 squared is just 2, 3 times 1 is 3, and we just have that plus 1 on the outside there. So this would be 2 plus 3 plus 1, which is equal to 6. Now sometimes when we evaluate a function, we're going to get a number, like here. Sometimes we're not going to get a number, we'll still have variables involved. The important thing to remember is that we always, whatever we have inside that parentheses, the argument of the function, goes in place of the variable. I have a silly way I like to remind students of this, so I'll show you mine. If I wanted to find f of Steve, oh, well, that's silly, right? That's ridiculous. But I have a rule, and the rule says Steve is going to go where I have an x. So this would be 2 Steve squared plus 3 Steves plus 1. Okay? So that's very literally applying our function rule. Another way I like to present it is if I had f of smiley face. This would be 2 smiley face squared plus 3 smiley face plus 1. Now, why do I harp on that so much? Well, because sometimes you get something like f of y plus 1. And that's where everybody freaks out. Use the Steve rule. Whatever I have in the parentheses, it goes right in the place of x in my rule. So f of y plus 1, this would be 2 times y plus 1 squared plus 3 times y plus 1 plus 1. Now there's a little bit of work to still be done here. I need to simplify it. We're not going to end up with a number like we did up here. We're going to end up with an expression in y. So let's simplify it. All right, y plus 1 squared, remember that's going to be y squared plus 2y plus 1. I would FOIL that out. And then we have 3 times y plus 1 plus 1. Let's distribute now. So I have 2y squared plus 4y plus 2, and then 3y plus 3, and that 1 stays on the end. Let's group up like terms. So 2y squared plus 7y plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6. All right, so f of y plus 1 would be 2y squared plus 7y plus 6. We've simplified it, and that's an okay answer for that. All right, so let's look at some different types of functions and do a little bit of practice plugging in for those functions. So I'm going to write up f of x is the square root of x plus 1. So we have a new rule for how we're going to find f of x. It's the square root of whatever x is plus 1. And we might be asked for a few different values. So I'm going to start with f of 0. Well, f of 0 would be plug in 0 for x and evaluate. So this would be square root of 0 plus 1, which would just be the square root of 1. And we know that's just going to be 1. That one came out nice. What if I were to ask you for f of x squared? Well, we would put x squared in place of x in our rule. So that would be the square root of x squared plus 1. We'd want to ask ourselves, can we evaluate that? There's nothing we can do to take that square root, so that's our simplified answer. All right, what if we had f of y minus 1? Well, think back over here to when we found f of Steve. We're going to put y minus 1 directly in place of x in our original rule. So I would have the square root of y minus 1 plus 1. I tend to put parentheses around when I put it into the function. So I have parentheses around my y minus 1. They're not absolutely necessary, but it's probably a good habit. All right, well, I can evaluate this inside the square root. So this would be the square root of y minus 1 plus 1, which is just the square root of y. All right, let's look at another function. What if I gave you f of x is 2 over 3 minus x? Okay, well, that one's a little different. My variable's in the denominator. Notice it's being subtracted, so parentheses may be very important here. All right, so first I'm going to ask you to find f of 1. So f of 1 would just be 2 over 3 minus 1. And I can evaluate that. So 3 minus 1 is just 2. So this would be 2 over 2, which is 1. So f of 1 would be 1. What if I said f of 2x plus 1? So we would place 2x plus 1 in the spot of x in our original function. So I would write it as 2 divided by 3 minus parentheses 2x plus 1. Now the parentheses are really important there so that I know to distribute the negative to both the 2x and the 1. All right, I'm going to rewrite this as 2 over 3 minus 2x minus 1. Collecting like terms, this would be 2 over 2 minus 2x. And you might notice, goodness, I can divide the top and the bottom by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. This would be 1 over 1 minus x. Just notice I divided everything by 2 on the top and the bottom to cancel that out. All right, the last one I want to look at is f of x is equal to 4 minus x squared. All right, let's say I wanted to find f of negative 1. This one we'd need to be careful because -1 is the thing being squared. So we would want to be very careful that it went in parentheses when we wrote it out. So 4 minus parentheses, -1, close parentheses, squared. All right, well, this would be 4 minus 1 because -1 squared is just 1, and that would be equal to 3. Okay. One more. What if I asked you for f of 2 plus z? So we would have 4 minus 2, parentheses, 2 plus z, close parentheses, squared. We would need to multiply out that 2 plus z. So 4 minus, keeping it in parentheses, 4 plus 2z. Sorry, that's a 4z. Let's fix that real quick. Plus z squared. And remember, we have to be careful to distribute that negative to everything inside the parentheses. So 4 minus 4z minus z squared. 4 and 4 cancel each other out, and we're just left with minus 4z minus z squared. All right. Remember, on evaluating functions, you want to keep your work really tidy, show your work, and take things just one step at a time. Use your parentheses and stay organized, and that makes it a lot easier.